India to deliver the global launch address. Please welcome him.
Thank you very much, Madam. The most distinguished Director General of WIPO, Dr. Francis Curry, our very senior and most distinguished inventor and innovator in India, Dr. Mashelkar, my colleague, Secretary in the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, Mr. Ramesh Abhishek, Mr. Naresh Prasad, the Assistant DG and Chief of Staff of the WIPO, distinguished Excellencies, Dr. Naushad Forbes, past President of CII, Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General of CII, as you rightly said, friend of WIPO, but he's a friend of all of us in this room. Somebody who's really worked hard, particularly in the government and private sector interface. Also the Indian interface with the rest of the world. Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, my colleague in the ministry, Mr. Rajiv Agarwal, all the delegates visiting from across the world, and my fellow Indian brothers and sisters. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to engage on a subject about which I personally had never realized how significant it is, how important it is, until very recently. I'd like to thank the WIPO, particularly Dr. Ghari, for the first ever launch in a developing country and for choosing India for this launch. Thank you very much, Dr. Ghari. We all truly appreciate it. After all, India is home to 1/6 of humanity. We are now the 6th largest economy, aspiring to be the 3rd largest, quickly hoping to ramp up to a $5 trillion economy. And I think all of this is not going to be possible without a significant and impactful presence in the world of innovation. And I think Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi recognizes this very well. And it is only his continuous effort that has helped India make this transition from the 81st rank to the 52nd rank in a short period of 4 years. Probably, as was said by Mr. Prasad, the fastest ever jump in rankings that we've seen in long many years. Certainly the fastest that we've seen in the developing world or amongst the BRICS countries or amongst the low and middle income countries. In fact, for that matter, innovation doesn't come new to India, Dr. Ghari. If one looks back in history, it was Aryabhat, one of our earliest mathematicians. Aryabhat invented the zero, a number, a concept in maths and science, which probably is the mother of all inventions when it comes to taking forward innovation involving mathematics, involving science, astronomy. And I think, as Albert Einstein had rightly said, and I quote, "We owe a lot to the ancient Indians teaching us how to count, without which most modern scientific discoveries would have been impossible." And one looks at the history of the world, whether it's the discovery of fire, whether it's the invention of the wheel, whether it's the steam engine powering the first industrial revolution, or whether it's artificial intelligence today. Unless the world moves, unless the world innovates, the progress of mankind itself will be under threat. And I think all of us are fortunate that we are living in a period of time in human history that is probably the most focused on innovation. And if one was to look at the developed world, and I was looking at the rankings, out of the first 40 ranks, 37 ranks are by high-income countries. 37 of the first 40 ranks are high-income countries. 3 other upper middle-income countries are in the first 40 ranks. Of course, we are happy that India has made such significant progress to now come to 52, couple of ranks short of what our desire was, what our ambition was for the first term of the Modi government in the last 4 years. But I still have a lot of satisfaction that we are making significant progress, and the culture of innovation is now coming into center stage, and we are seriously willing to engage with international organizations like WIPO, seriously looking at what can be done to improve processes, to improve our own culture of research and development, to improve the way government functions, the way our patent office functions, to inculcate the spirit of invention, the inquisitive spirit that is needed in our young children, particularly through the Atal Innovation Labs being set up all across the country. I think this new concern, this new engagement with innovation that we are seeing across the country has certainly become the hallmark of India as we move towards a better, a brighter, and a more prosperous future for the people of India. In fact, all of us today are very proud that while on the one hand we offer Ayurveda to the world, on the other hand, we are offering astronomy. We had the low-cost satellite Mangalyaan, which went up to space, and we've just had the successful launch of Chandrayaan-2 on the 22nd of July, which is our first step towards taking a human being on moon, which is what Prime Minister Modi looks forward to in the years to come. And while we often have skeptics who even criticize the bullet train project that we are trying to bring into India, who have criticized efforts to bring in modern technology to India, I think the larger set of people in the country, even in remotest corners of the country, recognize the importance of innovation, the importance of moving with the rest of the world, moving with time to bring better and better facilities to the people of India, particularly those marginalized sections of society who have remained underprivileged, who have remained without so many of the basic necessities of life that we all consider to be very routine, very ordinary. I'd like to congratulate all the persons and the organizations involved in this effort to take India up the innovation rankings. And I'm sure this effort that we are pushing in India will help the overall atmosphere of innovation get more acceptance in the country. I'm sure it will help us find more sustainable solutions to the real problems on the ground that the country faces, be it rising air pollution, be it the depleting natural resources, be it the challenges of climate change, be it food wastage and what we can do for that. Our big crisis of drinking water or water as a whole that we are now trying to address not only in India but globally, all of these challenges can best be resolved through more innovation, through better ideas, and I'm sure the people of India who are now looking at engaging with the world, I mean, look at ICT. We are ranked 1 in ICT, I believe, across the world. And one of the important factors which was a focus area of this government right from the day we came in was ability to transact digitally across the country and to take digital technologies to the remotest corners of the world, of the country. We've made data the lowest cost in the country today, barely 0.2 cents per GW, I believe. It's one of the lowest cost of data that we have in the country today. And it's been one of the enablers to make ICT drive innovation going forward. And I'm sure the same way that we improved the rankings so far up to 52, we will continue this effort so that we can truly reach to the levels upwards of 25 in terms of ranking, that the Honorable Prime Minister has set a goal before all of us engaged in this task. And I would like to assure all the people of India that India is well poised to focus on research, to focus on development. We are seriously looking at increasing our spends on R&D. And I believe the more important factor, rather than just the absolute number that we spend, will be how quickly we are able to engage with our academia, our universities, with the private sector, government, our public sector undertakings, all of us working together collectively, both within the country and engaging with the rest of the world, to make India the hub of innovation, the center of innovation, so that going forward, we can actually quickly ramp up that thinking in the country that encourages, that empowers innovation right down to the grassroots. In fact, we have improved our ranks on several factors, on IP, on information and communication technology, on services exports, where we rank first in the world, on labor productivity growth. So there's several factors where we have been able to improve our rank, several factors where we still have a lot of work to do. And I'm very happy that the team has committed to me that we are ready to take on the challenges. We are ready to go out there and offer the government as a facilitator, as an enabler for innovation, rather than just as a regulator. In fact, I was just reviewing the patent office working a few days back, and I was delighted to see that we've been able to engage a large number of people in our patent office. We finally have some 700-800 people working there. Other countries have much larger patent offices. We had a very small office which had a backlog of several years continuing and not able to cope up with the amount of work. We've been able to take these people, they are undergoing training, and what we have already been able to achieve in the last 4 years is a study of about 85,000 patents last year, compared to only 16,000 patents barely 4 or 5 years ago. From 16,000 to 85,000, without much significant manpower improvement. Now that these trained people will come into play, I'm confident we'll do over 100,000 patents every year starting from next year. And I would really like my team to work on cutting down the timelines, looking at engaging more actively with the persons or the organizations that file for patents, and see what we can do to bring that timeline down to days and weeks, and really make India a responsive country. We had introduced the patent box concept. I believe we've not been able to get much traction there. Let's engage with the industry, understand what are their concerns, and see how we can make that also much simpler, much easier for people to take the benefit of. And in the next 4 years, this target of going beyond or better than 25 should be our mool mantra. We have to take this forward in mission mode. We have to work in partnership with all the stakeholders. And to my mind, the pace at which we are currently going, if we can continue with this pace, there's absolutely nothing on earth that can stop us from reaching there. And after all, our Indian original text, the mythological texts, have one book called the Upanishads, which talk about movement, moving forward continuously. So just like the honeybees are constantly moving to give honey, just like we have birds constantly moving to keep flying, just like we have the sun constantly emitting light, which helps the world. In the same way, I think being a part of the universe, which is what the Hindu original Indian mythological text teaches. As long as you keep moving forward, the universe will progress, the entire humanity will progress. And that, I think, is what is going to be driving innovation. For the current year, we've kept medical innovation as our central theme. We believe with the launch of Ayushman Bharat, under which 500 million Indians are going to be entitled to free healthcare, under which we are not only focusing on curative healthcare, we are looking at preventive healthcare much more seriously. We are looking at wellness as becoming a part of the Indian society, Indian culture. I believe that getting better and better medical devices, getting new technologies coming to serve the poor in India, maybe telemedicine reaching out to the remotest corners of the country, taking quality healthcare for the people in remote parts of India. All of these will help the people of India both improve their quality of life, help the ease of living of the people of India, and I'm sure will also ultimately contribute to higher and better incomes for our people. In fact, innovation also comes very naturally to many Indians, particularly in the rural parts of India. And as they say, necessity is the mother of all invention. One of my colleague members of parliament who comes from the tribal community, while opening a debate in parliament barely 4 weeks ago, had spoken about how in her village in Maharashtra, a village where she comes from, in Nandurbar, district Nandurbar of Maharashtra, the Honorable MP spoke about how lives got transformed after a healthcare center came in. And while explaining what life was before the healthcare center came in, she said before that, people used to take sick people to hospital in a stretcher made of bamboo. And instead of ambulance, it was called a bambulance. But that was native innovation. That you can't afford a whole ambulance, you can't afford all the modern equipment. They found a way out. They used the bamboos, made a small stretcher. It actually has, I believe, physically good properties because it gives the body a very wavery base on which the patient doesn't suffer much as you are either going in a motorcycle or a cycle. This is before the ambulance came to our village. So it was native intelligence which helped them overcome a problem. And I do wish the WIPO would consider looking at India's rural innovations, our very traditional innovations, also as a part of this index. I think these kind of disruptive ideas, or sometimes very, very small innovations, which may not be recognized much in the overall context of world literally reaching space and reaching the moon. But sometimes these frugal rural innovations have a lot of strength in their ideas. And I would urge the WIPO to consider if they can pick up some of these ideas which are being incubated in rural India in your innovation indexes. And I think that may help India even move forward even faster as we go forward. The Prime Minister has already spoken about 4 steps which we should all work towards: innovation, patent, produce, and prosper. If we innovate and patent them in our country and start producing those goods in India, prosperity will come to the people of India. And I believe this will help the nation move faster up the value chain, provide for the people of India in better quality of life, better services, and our universities, our private sector, government will have to work together, without which I don't see our ability to reach up to 2% R&D expenditure. But if we all work together, I'm sure we'll be able to get a bigger bang for every buck that we spend. And I would urge probably Dr. Mashalkar to take this concept forward, lead us from the front, help us create this kind of an infrastructure, this kind of a thinking. And I'm sure under your illustrious leadership, we can really make India the hub of innovation, the hub of invention, the hub of research, the hub of developing newer and better and more relevant technologies for India, particularly considering our aspiration for a better quality of life for our people. In fact, innovation also has a great deal of risk-taking ability along with creativity. After all, we haven't become one of the world's fastest growing startup countries without our young boys and girls taking risk, demonstrating creativity. And I'm sure we all understand that fear of failure should not inhibit innovation. Probably failure has to be celebrated. And a person who fails is a person who worked, who tried. Probably another one of Thomas Edison's ideas that I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways how not to do a particular thing, how not to succeed. So I think all of us will have to look at innovation also from the lens of celebrating failure, from that lens of creativity, rather than castigate anybody for having failed. I think it's time we started encouraging our youngsters, encouraging our young minds to experiment, to go beyond the ordinary, to put in that extra effort, to aspire for ideas or for goals which may not seem very doable. And I can share a small example in conclusion. I remember when we took up the LED program in the country, the LED lighting program, and we said in 4.5 years, we'll replace 770 million incandescent bulbs with LED bulbs. 770 million in 4.5 years was the target we had set for ourselves way back in 2015. I'm happy to share with all of you that we have almost doubled that, and 4.5 years are not over. Close to 1.5 billion LED bulbs have replaced all old bulbs in the country. And prices have come down by nearly 87 to 90%. That's been the reduction in prices. Government, which used to give us subsidy, was able to withdraw the subsidy. In fact, that was the first step so that this program could flourish independently. And I believe at that point of time, an idea which sounded very silly, an idea which sounded impossible to achieve, was achieved because of the collective effort of the people of India. So once all the people get involved, and once we all take it upon ourselves that we have a mission to accomplish, I certainly have no doubt we'll be able to achieve extraordinary results. Today, as I opened your Innovation Index book, I was reminded of the good old days when I was first looking up the results of my chartered accountancy examination. In some sense, it was a similar experience. I stood second at that point of time also. Here also we are 52, just about a couple of ranks behind what our aspirational goal was. But I assure you, sir, that going forward, just like I think in my life, God has blessed me with enough opportunities to do a lot. I'm sure this country and the people of India will not rest until we achieve our first target of coming within the top 25 ranks, and then our ultimate aim of coming within the top 10 ranks in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. May I invite Mr. Rajiv Agarwal, Joint Secretary, DPIIT, Government of India, to give his closing remarks, please.